Leeds. Wilton makes a run ahead of it. Bergkamp suddenly changed pace through the centre. It's Bergkamp. That's magnificent. The move, and then this, which left Dabby's ass totally stranded.
Hello and welcome again to a Bergkamp Wonderland, apparently an Arsenal podcast. But not only tonight have we had a handful of Gooners, we've now got a Leeds fan joining us to predictor number 17 is what you will be henceforth known as. It's Mr. Tom, a Londoner, but he's a Leeds fan. How you doing?
I'm wonderful, thank you. Appreciate you having me on. I've been called worse than number 17. I like that.
Yes. We were saying before the show that you're a Londoner, your old man's a Londoner, and but you both support Leeds, but the rest of your family all supports Arsenal, and that Arsenal is the only team that Leeds don't hate. So I didn't know that. I thought Leeds hate everybody.
We do, but it's more of like the enemy of our enemy is our friend, and you did a lot of things that Manchester United would have considered a nuisance. So it was quite handy.
Can't really argue with that. You're friends with Stan, and you've got your Love Leeds 1919. Was that the year they were formed?
That is exactly it. Ideally, I would have had it as at We All Love Leeds, but unfortunately, Twitter was a bit stingy, so I had to go with the best I possibly could.
Yeah, I've had to have a word with Elon about that, but he's blanking me at the moment. I do expect a response sometime about said, "Oi, sort it out." And so far, nothing's been done. He's been too busy rebranding.
It's probably in the post.
Yeah, probably. Never going to get here. You also do a wrestling pod, and Stan, we all know Stan is a bit nuts when it comes to the wrestling. He's currently watching all of it on the WWE TV. And there's a Twitch channel that I watch, and they continuously play non-stop old SmackDown Raw. They went all the way back to the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
And now they're up to 2006, and it is rubbish. Yeah,
it's not ideal. But we tend to cover a mix. We go live in the UK, live at midnight. Obviously, times vary across the world. Basically, we discuss certain topics. For example, tonight it'll be SummerSlam, which will be Saturday. And then we're watching SummerSlam on Saturday, live on the channel, in a watch-along format. It's good fun.
I completely forgot it's summer because the weather is so bloody awful. We're in the middle of summer. And so it's summer. So what's the main event for SummerSlam?
I believe Roman Reigns will be defending against his cousin Jay Uso. But watching the weekly, it's not bad. It's actually a lot better than the era you're describing.
Yeah. I like to see the women doing the wrestling, but they all look like they got dressed in the dark in a fancy dress shop. That's how the women dress, and it's ridiculous.
The Full Nelson podcast, the show we do, it does sometimes double as a bit of a fashion show where we like putting up the images of things we've discovered throughout the week, and it's good fun. It's good fun, that by all.
But when you look back and you see how the Divas originally started, the bra and panties competition, and you think, that is embarrassing to watch that now. I mean, back then I thought it was a bit weird, but now in the morals of 2023, you look at that and go, no, that's horrible.
Yeah. Before we get on to why we're actually here with the football, I do kind of look back and think, who backstage was looking at like the gravy bowl when they'd have them wrestling in gravy and thought, that really does it for me. Like, who's sitting there thinking that?
And some of the stuff Jerry Lawler would come out with, you're thinking, I don't know if they still have all of that available on the on their channel, because I know they've taken off all the Chris Benoit stuff, haven't they?
It's actually there. They just don't promote that it's there.
When it's not, when you do a search, it doesn't come up in the listing. Is that what?
If you watch a specific show or that, it will have him on it. They just don't. You can't specifically search him out. I suppose it's fair.
Yeah, I suppose that's good. Right, let's get on with the whole point of being here. So if anybody wants to go and follow you on your Twitter for your podcast or either of your podcasts, where do they go?
Basically, just here, I am feeling like a bit of a Formula One racing car with all the Twitter accounts. But basically, my personal one is at Mr. Tom 28. The lead show, which airs on Sunday evening, UK 9 p.m, is at Love Leeds 1919 or 1919. And if you fancy a bit of the graps, a bit of the wrestling, then it's at Full Nelson Pod.
Jolly good, and you can see our very own Stan on there. Did you make him wear his Spider-Man mask when he's doing it?
There is a guy that comes on in a mask, but I've never confirmed that he is Stan. Like I'd never do him like that. So
no, that would be completely wrong. Luchador, Arriba. Yeah. Right, let's go and get up share the screen, look at the predictions, and laugh at what everybody has picked, and then stick us down the bottom. So a little bit of zoomage in. So the first thing you're going to do is we've got all your details correct there. Who's going to win the Premier League?
You're going to be upset by this, I suspect, but I find it hard to look past the blue half of Manchester.
This makes sense. Why?
Well, obviously, I don't have the emotional attachments that many of your viewership and guests will have. So it's quite easy for me to say they spend the most money generally. They have Erling Haaland. They have X, Y, and Z. They're going to win it. It's for you to beat them.
So how do you feel as a fan of a team that hasn't really spent much time in the Premier League, but is still considered one of the biggest clubs in England? I mean, you're bigger than Spurs, you're bigger than Leicester, you're bigger than many teams, Newcastle, you're bigger than all them historically. How does it make you feel when you see Man City, who are essentially a League One team, and what they've done? Does it irritate you as much as it irritates everybody else?
It does. It irritates me in the context that it's a lot of our doing. Ultimately, we failed financially at a time period where the Premier League was building up steam financially, and we were not able to be part of it. We weren't able to put ourselves in a position where billionaires would look at us and go, "That's a big club. They're already in the Premier League. Let's make something happen." Instead, we got two Bob Charlies that what's the best way of putting it? Ken Bates, let's say, comes through the door and buys us for £1 and liquidates everything and builds. It would have been nicer if Ken Bates was chic Ken Bates, for example.
But it's not.
It's not. I'm afraid it's not.
I've got a bit of a soft spot for Leeds, which is a bit odd for an Arsenal fan. And I was about a month ago. I was reading through your Wikipedia. Even to this day, David O'Leary is still percentage-wise your second best manager, and they got rid of him. That was the beginning of the end for your team, who were a Champions League semi-final team, wasn't it?
It is, because he was, in my opinion, he was made a scapegoat because the financial penalty of our spending hadn't dropped at that point. So they tried to get out in front of it and go, "Oh, you're taking our players and you're not." Well, we were probably about 5th at the time. So it was like, we should be winning the titles and stuff. And it's like, yeah, but you should not be spending money you don't have.
Yeah, I mean, you look back at that when the likes of Ferdinand and all that lot left. You're thinking, bloody hell.
Mm-hmm.
Any team that were fighting at the top half of the table, and they'd end up relegated. And then you got Telltale come in, and he made a mess of it, and isn't going to work. So, go on.
It was like a fire sale. Basically, it was the equivalent of a relegated team being picked of all their players, except we were 5th in the Premier League, and everyone was coming in like, "We'll give you." Off the top of my head, it'd be, "We'll give you $3 million for Robbie Fowler, but you still have to pay half his wages." And we're still so desperate to rein in the finances that we were willing to pay half the wages of players just so we didn't have to pay 100% of the wages of players.
Didn't he get a Man
And then you
City
ain't got the players. Yeah, that was it actually was Man City, but before they were good, of course.
So where have you got Arsenal finishing this season? And then, like the Villa fan, I want you to let me know where Leeds are going to finish this season.
I have you at 4th.
Right, time you left. Go on, 1-4.
The reason I have you at fourth is because I think Newcastle are going to kick on. I don't think they're actually going to win it, but they're going to increase their spending power, and we don't know if they're finished this summer. I think Liverpool have had a bit of a time in the doldrums, so for their standards recently, and I think they may nick the third. So I'm going conservative, but I still think you'll get the Champions League spot.
Yeah.
But it depends at what you all think about fourth.
Yeah. No, I mean, we're definitely going to be top 4, but it's a matter of how much. Well, now that Jesus might be injured for a few weeks, and then what we're going to do to score goals for. I mean, we'll be fine for a while with Martinelli and Saka on the wings and Erdegaard in the hole and all of that lot. But yet again, our main strikers could be missing for part of the season if things are as bad as what they say it is. Could be a month, 2 months, something like this.
Yeah.
I mean, look at this. Look what Stan's saying. Stan's saying, fourth, cut this guy's mic.
I can say something that rather than like looking up my address and stuff. I personally think you'd be sixth if you didn't have Eddie Nketiah.
Good God, how does that work out? He ain't ever going to score goals for us. He's terrible.
He's one of the greatest. He's a great young man. Lots of effort. I've seen him running around the Full Parts training ground. That's the Leeds training ground for the benefit of the Arsenal fans. Just a great young lad. Great in the dressing room. And I see no reason why he's not helping you hold your heads above water. But no, seriously, I do think you'll get that.
You should start that with knock knock, then people will know that you were joking. Where do you think Leeds are going to finish in the Championship?
I actually think we're going to win the Championship because why wouldn't I think that? You know, in all fairness, this would be my one pick where you like for example, I think Stan mentioned it. Thank you for putting me forward for this, Stan. Where he was mentioning like he's making many of his picks with his heart over his head, and that's obviously the one where I can't be objective over it. It's like if we keep certain players, we've got the best manager that we could have possibly got out of what was available. We're putting ourselves in a position to do well. In my opinion.
I agree with you completely, which is why I'm changing my prediction for the winner of the Championship. I've been doing a little bit of wikiing, found out who your manager was. I had no idea, and I will be telling people. I'm changing mine from Leicester to Leeds later on in this show. So Arsenal's top goal scorer, all competitions. Who are you going to go for?
I've got down Saka because I know he's been your top scorer in the previous, I believe it's 2 seasons, right?
Yeah.
And like you do rely on him, and I believe he's very like front heavy with his goals, like more like the first half of the season. It feels like that's when he's like the greyhound that comes out really fast, but then gets tired around April. But by then he's already got enough to be your top scorer. So I think it will be him again.
Yeah, that's what I've done. That's what most people are thinking because he's just magnificent. Are you an England fan?
I am an English individual that wants the team to do well when they're playing. I don't have a drum kit.
Yeah.
And like go to Wembley and that, but you know, I don't actively root against the team.
Yeah, I'm English, and I should be an England fan. But when it's full of Spurs and Man United players, I struggle to give a shit. Plus, I don't like Southgate. But as a general rule, I am an England fan, but I don't really care if they win or lose. But now we've got more and more Arsenal players in the team, I'm starting to become a bit of a believer. Who's going to be top goal scorer in the Championship for Leeds? Because I get the fans of other teams to pick the same answers for their team. A couple of them.
Our top scorer, there's this weird thing where I get the feeling that no matter what happens, Patrick Bamford's up front.
Yeah.
Like, if we, like, Bielsa, like, say what you will about his magnificence and everything, if we'd signed Cristiano Ronaldo 2 years ago, which would never have happened and would never have flew, we wouldn't have stood for it. But if he had, we would have played Patrick Bamford ahead of Cristiano Ronaldo because that's the faith that there is in him at the club. Yeah. It's madness, but unless we go out and buy someone that has true like 25 goals a season pedigree, it's going to be Patrick Bamford because he's the penalty taker. And
well, I was looking at when the season you got promoted a few years ago. He got, I think, 17 the season you got promoted. Then he got 16 in the Premier League the next season. And then he fell apart with injuries, didn't he? Then he had 2 more. And if he'd have been fit last season, you wouldn't have gone down.
I can see why people would think that is the case.
Yeah.
He's a very divisive figure among the Leeds faithful, I think it's fair to say.
He's going to be 30 in September. I still think of him as a young man.
Yeah. I remember when he came through at Nottingham Forest and Chelsea bought him so no one else could have him, kind of thing. That's strange, people buying Bamford so no one can have him. But because you probably couldn't give him away now. But
so you're going Bamford for that?
Yeah.
So how about Spurs? Where do you? I know it's not really relevant for you because who's your arch rivals? Man United, I suppose.
Yeah, but I had an answer for Spurs. I think Spurs are getting 6th.
6? That's the highest. Bloody hell! How do you justify that? That's crazy. Even
because I demoted the Manchester Red team to, well, hopefully 20th, but I know that's a bit too adventurous.
Oh dear.
It's funny Stan mentions that because I had an answer prepared for Premier League top scorer, and I was actually going to say if Leeds was still in the Premier League, it would be Junior Firpo, but we're not, so he can't. So I'm going to have to just settle for Erling Haaland.
I've never even heard of Junior Firpo.
Oh, he's a great man. He's got the world's greatest moustache. World's greatest moustache.
Does he even play for Leeds?
He has. He had a great February. He had a great February, and it's a shame that February couldn't stretch out for the 2 years he's been at the club.
That is a shame. Right, so next one. Who are you going to pick for the FA Cup winner?
Newcastle United, and I can tell you why.
That's who I picked.
The reason I'm going with Newcastle is because way back when Manchester City got their riches, the trophy that set them on their way was the FA Cup. Yeah. And I notice a lot of dynasties in football tend to start with that trophy. Like Manchester United in the 90s, they won like an FA Cup in 1990 before they won the Premier League.
Lee Martin.
Or like the top division. So it wouldn't surprise me if that's the sort of trophy that would spur Newcastle on to actually get more silverware.
Yeah, Lee Martin scored the goal, the left winger, and that's the goal they said kept Ferguson in his job because they were about to fire him. Okay, so how about the League Cup? Maybe a little cheeky bid for Leeds for the League Cup?
No, again, I would go with Newcastle because in the hope that at least I'll get 1 out of 2 and sound a little bit clever. But
not many people have gone for the both cups for the same team. I think Tom picked Man City to win everything, which is a fair bet. Yeah, only one other person has picked the same team for both cups, but the bloke we had on earlier, our Femi, said Man United for the FA Cup because they got to both cup finals last season, and so far they're the only ones to do that. I mean, he was the only one to pick that.
Yeah.
Champions League winner, what are you going to go there?
Manchester City.
Oh, obvious, isn't it?
Because teams rarely retain it outside of Real Madrid, and Man City absolutely blew them away. And obviously, it's probably going to be the year before they get Mbappe, so they're not going to be at their full peak. Let's say. I can't believe I'm saying that about Real Madrid, but it's going to be Man City's best chance to retain it. Let's say.
Yeah, makes sense. So a player from the Premier League, top goal scorer, but all competitions, including Europe. What have you got?
Oh, Erling Haaland. Who else can it be? Like, it's just a row of... Oh, God. Okay. What? Odegaard? No, okay.
Oh, what, someone's picked Odegaard?
Yeah,
that was Jassy, because he said that if Saka misses one more penalty, then Odegaard will start taking penalties, and for the amount of games we're playing next season, that's going to be 5 or 6 goals, and he scored 15 last season. But for all competitions, I think he was just he was high on life because Arsenal were doing well, and he even smiled when he said Odegaard. There's got no chance for that one. This is where I am going to go and change mine. Championship winner from Leicester to Leeds, because I was having a look at your team. Like I said, you got Sinistera, I thought was magnificent. You got Daniel James, you got Helder Costa, Jack Harrison, I like Bamford. You can't really argue with Bamford. He's going to have a good season down there. And then you've got Measlow in goal. He's a really decent player. Luke Ayling. I mean, I know
we're actually going to replace him. We've already bought Cole Darlow from Newcastle. 400,000.
Yeah, and I saw that. So is Meisler off? Is he off to France?
I think he thinks he's off. I think he wants to go, but the thing is, you don't tend to get a massive market for goalkeepers who conceded 150 goals in 2 years.
That's true, but I think a brilliant signing for you is Ethan Ampadu, linked to Arsenal when he left.
Incredible.
And he has had 4 really decent loans, 1 in Germany, 1 in Italy, and 2 in Spain. And I don't know how much you paid for him, because Wiki says it's
7 million roughly. It was
7 million.
Because they allegedly they opened they wanted 12, but obviously I don't think anyone's really willing to pay that. So I think we did well to get him at the price we did, which is nice because we got our pants pulled down on Daniel James, and I've got nothing against Daniel James as a player or person, but buying Manchester United's 5th choice striker for £30 million seems a bit dodgy.
How much you paid for him?
Yeah, really, it was like 28 or something, but for the sake of hyperbole.
Without looking, I'd have thought you'd maybe have paid about 10 or 12 for him. It says here 25.
Yeah,
wow.
That sounds more right.
Job, has he?
Well, but then we played him out of position. He's like 5'5" or something, whatever he is. And when we put him up front, and it's like, but he's a winger for a start, and it's like, get tactical about it. But at the time we had Jack Harrison and Rafinha, and it's like, so why are you buying Daniel James? Other than your own personal vanity, because we tried to buy him in the first season. That Bielsa was there. He was at the club, with his dad holding the shirt up for photos and that, and then Swansea stopped returning our calls on deadline day, and because they realised that instead of us paying 12 million, they could wait until June and get 15 from Man United. So that's obviously what they did. And then he barely played for Man United. They got Ronaldo. He became 5th choice. And then we turn up and go, we won't settle. We're not leaving here without Daniel James. It's like, they probably want to give him to us. But now you've said you won't want to leave without him. They're like, make us an offer. Where you should have gone, we'll give you the 15 million you've paid. But instead, we've gone, we'll give you 25. And they're like, done. Like,
you could have
they couldn't believe their luck.
They probably would have loaned him to him for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Shit. So, winner of the championship, I'm going to have a stab in the dark here. You're going to go Leeds.
Yeah.
How worried are you about the likes of Southampton and Leicester, who came down with you, and Middlesbrough, and who else is in here?
Oh, very worried.
Huh?
I'm not as worried about Middlesbrough. It's more Leicester and Southampton, because all their big players have either been sold for a lot of money, or they're basically holding out for a lot of money, which they might get. So they can then respend that if they so choose. So then that obviously weakens our position. But it's really hard to say at this point. Obviously, everyone can have a more educated guess come September 3rd or whenever deadline day is, when you know what you've got and what you haven't.
Oh, I just remembered. Oh no, they've not replied. Good. Right, and the final one I've got for you is, I've got 2 screens up here at the same time. First Premier League manager to get the boot. Who do you reckon?
I would say Lopetegui for Wolves.
Man's getting no love at all. Why?
The reason I would go for him is because historically, in the last couple of years, Wolves have shown that they get out of a lot of trouble by pulling the trigger early. Like, they seem to give themselves a real good chance of survival after every bad start. And they will have a bad start because they sold their best player. Their best player's decided he wants money rather than prestige. He's gone to Saudi Arabia. Good luck to him.
Yeah.
But that doesn't leave them in a great position. And I know they can buy a player because they've got the money and all that. But if they don't have a outstanding start, he will get sacked. And because they've shown they've done it to Nuno. I know they let Nuno out, but they done it to the guy that replaced Nuno. Can't remember who it was. The guy they sacked last season when they lost 2-0 at West Ham.
Yeah, no, I can't think.
It was very early.
Yeah, I can't think who it was. I should go and have a little look while you're talking.
Whereas Leeds are very late with the sackings. We're like the last team.
Sorry? Steve Davis was the interim. Oh, Bruno Lage.
That's the guy.
Yeah. He was only there for a short while.
But they get in first, and we're like last on the merry-go-round, so we get the manager no one else wanted.
Yeah.
Really. And then we paid for it, essentially. But it works out for them.
I think having Daniel Farker there, who's won the championship 2 times in 3 seasons, that even if he just gets you back up again, then you get rid of him and get in a bigger name. He has got everything that you need to get you out of that league. It's just a shame that Timo Pukki has gone to play in the MLS. Otherwise, Leeds could have him. He'd bang you in 40 goals a season and then get you to the Premier League and he'd get 1 goal a season. But I think you're definitely going to come back up because you managed to keep so many decent players. And other players that you had in the Premier League that were kind of championship quality are going to shine in the championship, like you were saying with the Welsh kid and with Bamford and a couple of others. So there you go. That's it. Right. Before we go, just give people a little reminder of where people can find your podcasts.
Yeah, obviously I can be found on @MrTom28, and that's where I'll basically retweet all the stuff from the other podcasts. But basically, Love Leeds 1919 will be the official Twitter. I ain't paying them 10 grand for the gold thing, but the official Twitter of the We All Love Leeds show. Not called show, the MB's show. And then the Full Nelson podcast, which can be found at Full Nelson Pod. In hindsight, massive mistake calling it Full Nelson Podcast because it's a video on YouTube, and I wouldn't even know what a Spotify is to put it out on that. So find us on that. We're actually going live in 93 minutes, and we have some fun and festivities planned.
I'm going to come and I've watched a couple of them. I've got 2 screens here. I'll often have other pods on there when I'm doing stuff. So I have you on one, and then stuff on the other one. So I might come and have a look at that tonight. Is Dan on?
I appreciate it. I believe Stan is going to make an appearance because he's not notified me that he isn't. Yeah. So, but good. Yeah, we have a good bunch of lads. Generally, go through a few memes or stuff at first that I found that are amusing to me. Mainly, I'm more interested in amusing myself. If other people are amused, that's a bonus, isn't it? Yeah. But when we go through the shows, we're going to make our predictions because we have a predictions game that's been going since February. Like predicting match outcomes on the pay-per-view events. It's good. It's good fun. I enjoy it, and I hope the audience does. Always welcome.
Excellent. Right. If we manage to meet you in any cup competitions this season, then we'll get you on again for one of them. And if not, then we'll see you next season in the Premier League. The season after next, then we'll get you on for a preview game. And
I'd be honoured.
How good it is to be back in the Premier League, but rock bottom of the table. As you go back down again because your owners are arseholes.
Yeah, well, our new owners have not proven to be arseholes yet, but we all know what awful. The people that own the San Francisco 49ers have invested, took full control.
49ers Enterprise.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Where
he doesn't even know how old he is, so.
We're invested in by such individuals as Olympic gold medalist Michael Phelps and NBA player Russell Westbrook. Those are names that I know. Don't get me wrong, if they walked in front of me, I couldn't tell you a lick about who they were.
Well, one of them's got really big hands and really big feet, and the other one I've got no idea who they are. Right,
he's probably tall.
He probably is. You don't get many midgets playing. We can't say that anymore, can we? People of reduced stature playing NBA basketball, do you? Right. Thank you very much, Tom. It's been fun to have you on. And all we've got to do now is play the outro. I will be back in about half an hour with Glenn from New York. And that'll be the final show of the day. And and then I'll be editing them all and putting them all up on the iTunes for you to listen to while you're having a poo, having a bath, or walking the dog. Right. See you later, everybody. Goodbye.
As soon as I scored that goal, I was fucking livid. Get down, dog. Splendid business.
He nearly caught the bloody thing. What are you talking about?
So I was just eating a full quiche. Well, you don't often see them at Ibs, so when you see them in the supermarket, they need to be swagged, microwaved immediately, and get the brown sauce on and bosh, Bob's your uncle.
Never